This is Roy Cannaday, and today I'm taking a look at an expansion for one of my favorite games of all time, and that's Heroes of Land, Air, and Sea Pestilence. Let's get to it. So let's talk a little bit about what Pestilence adds to Heroes of Land, Air, and Sea. So the first and most obvious thing is 2 more factions. So you have the bird folks, which are going to start on the floating island, which is also new with this expansion, but they start up there, or you can play with them in other areas of the board, but it's kind of meant to be played on that island. They have some interesting special abilities that allow them to use the fly ability as with their basic unit, so they can fly around the board and jump past enemies, and also have special abilities where they get extra points for their tower if it's really far away. And they're just a unique faction with different unique characters, and I like how they have the whole like Egyptian theme to them as well. Of course, you get all the stuff you would get with a normal faction as far as the towers and the new heroes and all of that stuff. And then you also have the Merfolk. So the Merfolk are like the underwater guys, and they come with like this transparency that goes over the board and makes their entire continent submerged underwater. So they're kind of interesting too. They have a lot of things that are on the opposite side of the bird folk, so that they can do the sail action with their characters, and they'll get points at the end of the game for each ocean space they occupy. So definitely 2 interesting factions that you can add to the game. But one of the things that I really love about this is the floating continent. So if you own just the base box, you can only play 4 players. If you get the expansion, the first expansion they came out with, Order and Chaos, it goes all the way up to 6 players. But if you own this expansion, if you just have it in the base game, you can play up to 5 players, which is actually my favorite way to play this game, is 5 players with that floating island in the middle. I play this game a ton at conventions, so it's really cool to play that 5-player game and still have that cool look on the board. Or you can play all the way up to 7 players if you had both expansions. I've done that 1 time so far, and I'm planning to do it again at Gen Con, but it should be an interesting game, even if it's a little bit longer. Then the other things this adds is new spell cards that you can throw in to your game and change those up a little bit. So let's take a look at those now. Confusion lets you pick the tactic card that your opponent can't play, so it helps you figure out those battles and what people are going to play. Multiply allows you to double a resource that you already have, allowing to get you lots more resources. Plane Shift allows you to reclaim, so there's used tokens off to the side. You shuffle all of those up, and you get to draw 2 of them, activating those abilities on those. Then there is Blink, which allows you to immediately bring one of your units, preferably a hero, from anywhere into the battle that you're currently in. Levitate allows you to have guys fly around the board. Haste allows you to do 2 march actions. Illusion allows all of your serfs to be stronger in combat. Stonewall allows you to kind of retreat from combat and just kind of end it. Plague allows you to, you can place it on someone's courtyard during the next battle. They lose strength for their armies. And then Split is one of my favorites. It allows you to turn warriors into a whole bunch of serfs. Or 1 warrior turns into 3 serfs, which, you know, serfs are the lifeblood of this game. All right. So there's definitely a ton of interesting new spells to mix up that spell deck and make it different for each game that you play. And then you also have the heroes for each of the 2 new factions, which have their own special abilities. Let's take a look at those. The Vizier, he lets you gain extra resources when you do the exploration tokens. Also, the places that are adjacent to him get extra resources. And if he's destroyed, your opponent's going to lose 3 points, so they're not going to want to take him out. The Raptor, oh man, this guy's annoying, having him played against you. At the end of the round, he can basically make someone, or when he moves, he makes someone lose one of their resources, the highest resource. At the end of the round, he can destroy a serf if he's level 2, and if he's level 3, he can destroy a warrior instead. The Champion, this guy's crazy because he can fly across the board. He gains +1 movement, so normally your guys that are 4 strength only have 1 movement. This guy gets +1 movement when he takes the fly action for each other person that's in the same space as him. When he gets to level 2, he can take people with him, and then when he gets to level 3, he can be conscripted from anywhere on the board. The Mystic is all about when you do in battle, you gain double the points off of the cards you play, and then you can, of course, cast battle spells and things like that, and then also you can get extra spell cards. So she's all about the spells. The Scallywag is all about exploration tokens. Any amount of resources on them, you get double, and he allows you to mitigate those a little bit. And then the Crusher here, what he does is... he can attack other sea vessels, even though he's not a sea vessel. He also gets +1 strength for each sea region you control. And then also, you get +2 if you win a sea battle. So he's all about taking over the ocean. So that's your heroes. Well, definitely awesome new heroes to add to the 2 new factions there as well. There are also new exploration tokens that have been added into the game. Let's take a look at a few of those as well. So Harpies, what they do is allow you to either the player chooses if they want to lose one of their units in the area, or if the opponent to their left can move one of the units up to 3 spaces away. But it can't cause combat. So the Harpies grab you and take you off to their lair. Then there is the Pyramid. What that does is you get 1 point for that space at the end of the game. And then also it is adjacent to all the deserts. So it allows you to be like a one-way portal to the deserts. And then the Dragon Eggs. These will go on towers, making them worth 2 extra points at the end of the game. But the tower's destroyed, then you will... If the tower's destroyed, then that player will steal the dragon eggs. If you don't have a tower when you get this, then it just kind of goes away. Then the sea tokens. The Reef allows you to get 2 extra points at the end of the game, and then you basically get a wild resource while you're out at sea. The crabs are kind of crazy because they crawl up on land and take out a lone surf, which there's normally lone surfs around. So if you're a merfolks and you have a whole bunch of crabs, you can end up wreaking havoc on your opponents. And then the wreckage is basically the same thing as the mines on the land. It allows you to get 3 random resources. So awesome stuff for the tokens. So a thing that doesn't necessarily just come with this game, it's also in the base set that I didn't talk about on my previous reviews, is the solo mode. And I've actually had a chance to play the solo mode that comes in the base game now. So I want to talk about solo stuff as well. It's kind of interesting the way that it works. You can play out the different cards and move the stuff around. And I actually played a 6-player solo game where it was me and 5 other players, which is insane. And I don't really play solo games enough, so I don't know how much I'm qualified to talk about the way the solo mode and stuff works in the game, but it's a good thing that I have some friends who know a lot more about solo than I do. Check it out.
Hi, Mike Dilisio from Solo Mode Games. So, Heroes of Land, Air, and Sea. As a multiplayer game, this has been one of my favorites of the last year or so. However, as a solo game, it's a little bit more complicated. There are some things that I think the solo game does quite well. You've got a AI deck, and I do like that in solo games, where that deck is going to tell you what actions the AI is going to take, it's going to give you some priorities, and it's also going to allow you to keep that follow mechanic that's such a big part of the multiplayer game. However, there are some things that I don't really love about the solo game. One of them is that there can be some ambiguity as far as especially the movement of the AI goes. Also, sometimes the priorities is a little bit tougher to figure out than I would like. Also, just by its very nature, a 4X game, it's very hard to pull off a solo experience there. I think it does a fine job at it, but it's probably not the best type of game to be replicated for a solo experience. I do like the clear win-loss conditions. That's something that's very, very important to me in a solo game. Now, this is not a tiny epic game. This is an epic game, and as such, there's an appropriate epic price tag. And for that reason, I would not recommend Heroes of Land, Air, and Sea as an exclusively or even mostly solo player experience. However, if you're going to be playing it multiplayer, it's fine to have that option, and I'm glad the option is there. It allows you to maybe learn some of those factions that you might want to try out before you're in a 3, 4, 5 player game. I've used solo primarily as a way to learn some of the expansion factions that I want to kind of get a handle on the actions and the abilities before I played a multiplayer game. So, it's a little bit of a conflicted situation for me with the solo game. I'm glad it's there. It does some things very well, but I would not recommend this as a strictly solo player experience. Thank you so much for your time, and have a great day.
Thanks so much, Mike. Hopefully that'll help your decision on if you are interested in this game for playing it solo. And let's get to my final thoughts on the expansion as a whole. it's kind of hard for me to not be biased here. Heroes of Land, Air, and Sea is one of my favorite games of all time, and I've kind of been like playing this game and working with this game since its inception. I did a Kickstarter preview, unpaid, back when it was just like standees and different stuff, and I really enjoyed the game then. It's been really awesome to see the game evolve and grow as time's gone on. Heroes of Land, Air, and Sea is definitely my favorite game, and Pestilence just adds more things to add. I love that there's new spells that can mix it up, and there's a lot of really cool ones in there, but the thing I love most about this expansion is that there's this floating island in the middle of the board now. It just adds this crazy table presence, and it's like, oh, just another continent, but I really enjoy playing that 5-player with the smaller footprint, so that way you have the square board that you can like fit everybody else around in a circle, and it just feels awesome playing these 3D towers and different things on there, and I really enjoy the new factions as well. The bird folk are really cool. They always start like in the middle of the board, and they have some cool stuff that allow them to like lash out and jump and take opponents' stuff, which is really cool as well. They feel like they can fly around and like hit people on their weak spot, and then they also get the extra points for towers, and it's really cool to be up there on that thing. Even though while you're up there, everybody's like, I want to be on that island as well. I've definitely had a lot of times where I've had games where people leave the bird folk alone up on their island. I've had games where people are like, hey, that thing's up floating on the middle. I want my guys up there too. And everybody invades the bird folk as well, and they have to like figure out where to go. I've played tons of games with this expansion and with all the stuff, and bird folks are actually in my top 5 of all time, which I did on Board Game Breakfast a while back, and the merfolk are really cool too. They're kind of interesting because they start the game with water tokens all around, as opposed to having the regular tokens on the board. So with all these water tokens, it's kind of like more like good and bad things can happen, because the water tokens are a little bit like high risk, high reward. So I've played games myself where playing as the merfolk, like I just got bad things that sent me back to my home like courtyard and like kind of like stunted me in the game a lot. But then I've seen people play the merfolk and just do amazing and be able to attack all sorts of people with crabs and be able to get a whole bunch of like hidden treasure and things like that. There's tons of awesome things the merfolk can do, and it's kind of like if you want to have that game where it could be twisted, like it's tainted a little bit because bad things happen to you, or you just have an amazing game because really good things happen to you just because there's exploration tokens, definitely play the merfolk if you like that luck aspect to the exploration tokens. And you can kind of mitigate that as well if you know what those water ones. I don't necessarily know what the water ones are as well as the other stuff, but hey, you know. I have played this game a ton though. I'm pretty sure like I'm one of the main people that like has just shared this game with a lot of people. I know lots of people out there really enjoy it, but at every convention I'm like, hey, let's play Heroes of Land, Air, and Sea. It's been a ton of fun. So adding more things, adding new things to the game, and all of that makes it amazing as well. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this review, and I really like the game, and I definitely recommend, if you have Heroes of Land, Air, and Sea, you should definitely get this expansion. Like, it's awesome. If you don't have Heroes of Land, Air, and Sea and you're interested in it, I know that the price point is pretty steep for the game, but if I didn't have the game at all, I would buy it again. So that's the highest recommendation I can basically give for something. So definitely check it out, and I'll see you guys on the next one.
Thanks so much for watching another Dice Tower video. If you enjoy our videos, subscribe to the channel for more fun, comprehensive board game coverage. Also, consider joining us at one of our events. Come to Dice Tower Retreat, a small, intimate gathering where gaming is king. Join us for Dice Tower Cruise, the largest board game cruise. Attend Dice Tower West in Las Vegas for gaming fun on the West Coast, or Dice Tower East in Orlando, in sunny Florida. Dice Tower Conventions, the friendliest gaming conventions on Earth. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.